Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Welcome on the Culture News. My name is David SERERO, and I have the pleasure today to have over the phone a fantastic lady. Her name is Loucks Christenson. She's a fantastic author. She's a fantastic illustrator, and she has just released a great book that is called The Winter Bugs, and they're celebrating actually the 10-year anniversary edition, and the ebook has just been released, will be released actually in December on Amazon. Please welcome the one and only Loucks Christenson. How are you, Lisa, today?
I am great, David. Thank you for having me on your show. I look forward to this interview and meeting up with your fans and listeners. And
it is my pleasure. It is really my honor. In my all my excitement, I forgot also to mention that you were a first-class photographer, but illustrator. Let's say that it covers it. So for the very few people, I'm a huge fan of your work. I've seen what you've done. I've seen I can tell you are a very passionate person, and I can tell it from just by reading all the great things that you have accomplished. And I think that the whole world must be very grateful to you because you are starting things that nobody would have the time and devotion to make it happen. So for the very few people who don't know you, please introduce yourself.
Well, thank you. My name is Lisa, and I'm actually a native resident of Rochester, Minnesota. And my passion has been both writing, illustrating as a child, but I didn't take that seriously until I was much older. My photography was actually my first, I'd say, true calling. And it's funny because I started out with a Polaroid camera, my parents, and I would save my allowances, which was maybe 25 cents a week back then, 50 cents maybe, and I would buy a pack of Polaroid film. And I would get my 8 exposures. I'd shoot it off right away, and I'd have to wait a week again, or a couple weeks actually. And now, just last week, we were at a Barnes & Noble, and I saw that old Polaroid camera sitting on the shelf again, like a retro version, and I just about bought it just because it brought back so many memories, because I have all my cameras except that old Polaroid. But that's who I am. I'm a photographer, and I've been shooting these outdoor documentaries. I did the weddings, portraits, all that way back when, and my calling had always been get back outdoors. So I actually went and took a job with the Conservation Corps just so I could be outdoors and make a life-changing decision at that point. Do I want to work in the natural sciences as a job, or do I want to work as a photographer and eke out my own living there? So that's who I am.
Wow, that's absolutely amazing. But what also you don't say, because you are very modest, you don't say that your work has appeared in Esquire, in Self, in Women's World, in Diversion, in Disney, in Hardcore, which is this very famous studio in France, in IBM, in Pearson, at the National Eagle Center. You just named them, the Big Wild, etc., and many other galleries. You are a member of several important organizations such as the ASMP, the PPA, the ASPP, the RWA, and many others. So tell me, my dear Lisa, what is your passion about the wildlife? What do you like in it that you don't find in any other subject? Because I can tell you're passionate about life itself. You're passionate about the beauty of life itself. But what do you find so amazing in what you are photographing, especially in winter bugs?
Well, that can be probably best answered this way. When I started Winter Bugs, that was actually a branch off of a larger documentary I was working on called Walk the Burn. And that documentary is over 1 million images and is still in editing. It'll probably be another 2 years before that book can be released. It is just a huge project. And because I had worked for the Conservation Corps, everybody, when we did the controlled burns, they didn't like us because we made things ugly. But the point was, I thought, there's people out there that probably don't know what the point of a controlled burn is. and what comes of it. So that's how this whole thing started. I was actually taking my nephew and daughter down to the Whitewater area because I had found the sandhill cranes, which were a relatively new bird being that had started coming down there. And so I took them down there to find them, and that's how we happened upon the controlled burn, which happened to launch me into the idea of creating this Walk the Burn documentary. But part of that documentary was I had to find something every single day, and I had to make this marsh look beautiful. So I would find things like a robin pulling out a worm out of the charred ground. And probably one of the most emotional pictures I took, I actually cried at this one, was an old cottonwood tree. And the ants were burned out all over, it burned all the ants. And I was crying, literally. And and then all of a sudden, watching the tree, one live soldier came out, one of the little red and black ants. And I just started crying. It was so emotional to me. And that's when I knew I had a project here that could really speak to hearts and show people how the smallest things in the world can make such a difference. And so I did this every day. I shot a different species every single day. And then I got up to December, that fall, and I was, 200 and some days into it at that point. And I'm like, I can't go home. I'm walking around in a snowstorm. I'm like, God, I'm not going home. I'm not going home. I wasn't being stubborn. I didn't want to call it quits, I guess. I was just determined. And I prayed on this tree. I'm like, God, don't let me go home. I have to find something. And I leaned off this tree. By the way, it was 37 below with the wind chill that day. It was very cold. And I leaned off the tree, and there were 7 little box elder bugs, nymphs. And they're crawling around this tree. I'm like, oh, my Lord, if you're out in this kind of weather, what else is out here? What am I supposed to be seeing? And so I said, you know what, the start of Christmas, the start of the winter solstice, I am going to be out here every single day, and I'm going to find hopefully 300 species of insects, and I'm going to just show the world that this stuff exists in the winter, because everybody around here says, oh, put it outside. If there's bugs in it, it'll freeze. Nobody knows, or maybe some people know. A lot of people don't know that winter doesn't freeze our insect life, and there's such a world existing there that, people focus on other worlds and aliens and all that, and that's fine for them. But right here on your own planet, right here underneath your feet on the trees, no
that's
matter
true.
where you go, there's something looking at you and something to discover. That's what winter bugs is.
Yeah, that's very beautiful what you said. That a lot of people they're trying to find what's what's in another planet, another world. But you have the beauty here. Like a lot of people think, oh, in heaven, but heaven is now. I mean, enjoy your life now and discover the beauty that there is around. That's the most important. So my next question, you kind of already answered it, but I still ask it to you. But I wanted, what do you want to show in this great book, The Winter Bugs, the 10th anniversary edition? What there is special in it that for someone who doesn't have the pleasure to know your work and someone who is passionate about the wildlife, tell me, what can I find in this great, great book?
Oh, thank you. The book is, this 10-year anniversary book is actually a clone of my exhibit. I'm in Minnesota, and I had a gallery in Stockholm, Wisconsin for about 4 or 5 years, and I traveled back and forth between the two, trying to expose people to the exhibit, and also at the National Eagle Center, which is kind of smack in between, a little off to the side there, but I mean, all in the same area. And I've been featured in the local media and news and all that. And there was a huge interest for this project. People were amazed by it. A lot of people know that what a snow flea is. Hunters definitely, most hunters know what that is. A little tiny, they're just a fleck, like a little. If you took your pencil and drew just a dot or a little bit bigger than a dot, that's the size of a snow flea. I mean, they're very, very tiny. And so for me to be able to show and teach everybody, I mean, I had brought kids from schools had come into my gallery, and I had set up activities for them to do, like they could do crayon rubbings off the trees where insects had carved, when the larvae, they live in the trees and eat the bark and stuff. But, the patterns that they make, they could do that. I did activities with matching the photos and all kinds. Sometimes we made cookies, frosted cookies as bugs. So we did a lot of different things like that. And then I started doing trading cards of the different little bugs, and then I would sell the packs out, and I'll probably do that again this spring when I release the hardcover again.
Please do. Please do.
Yeah, people love that. They love it. And so what I wanted to do is I wanted to put that whole exhibit and experience. I wanted to do it back in 2006, but the time was short. It just wasn't ready. And I kept praying because ebooks were just kind of on the edge back then. I'm like, if I just wait, maybe I can put this in an ebook format, and I can use Amazon, I can use Barnes & Noble, I can use iTunes, I can use these different online people to help distribute that. And this isn't about money for me. Money's great, but it's about teaching people about nature. People have been inspired.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how much it means to me to come back in out of the woods and have some, usually an older person, sitting out on the road. They can't hike. They can barely walk. And they're like, tell us what you found today. And to me, that meant the world because they couldn't get out there. They couldn't see. And sometimes I just flip they'd see the little camera, back of my camera, and they'd look at all the images in the LED thing. And they had so much fun seeing that. And to me, it was just about inspiring people to get out, check out the beauty. It's right there. They're driving past it every day when they go home in this remote area. And that's not the only area in the whole world, but every town or no matter where you live, there is something 10 feet out your door you need to be documenting. And not for money. Don't do it for money. Do it for a gift back to the world. Yeah.
Well, we're all very, very grateful to you for doing this. But also one thing, and I think this is your signature, Lisa, is that you were able not only to bring awareness of this life that is going on around us, that, we're driving by a car, we have no idea what's going on around, but also I think you brought art also. Just when I see the cover of Winter Bug, is the way you are taking the picture of this life, you are also doing it in an artistic way. You know what I mean? And that's pretty unique because the rest is pretty much usually documentary. But I think what you did is not only doing it in a documentary way, but also in an artistic way. This is why it is so it is so much great to look at your book and to watch all the great documentary that you did.
Thank you. When I started the book, a few things that need to be identified is, one, I never touched the subjects. If they crawled on me, they were void. I couldn't, because my whole thing is, this is a true documentary. You don't touch the subjects. You don't arrange the subjects. You don't do anything. You come up on them. This is their world. You let them be in their world. I sat there. Sometimes I would lay down on the snow, and I would literally just wait for something to walk by, hoping. And sometimes I'd be there an hour and a half and nothing walked by. But I had a pretty good idea. This is kind of underneath a tree or by a bunch of grasses or something. Something's going to walk by. I don't care what day. 30 below, 40 below. It didn't matter. Something was going to walk by. And if it didn't, you got up and you moved by another tree or something. But that cover image is a result of patience. That was me laying on the ground, ready to give up, because that's a long time to lay on the ground and move to a new spot.
Well, I believe you.
That little beetle comes running right in front of me, and no kidding, that snowflake fell right on his back as I shot it. I got two pictures of it, actually, the one that's on the cover and the other picture. That I've actually had people say, oh, you put that snowflake on his back. I'm like, no, that is real. That is a real thing. And what people don't know is, I got a lot of blurry shots, too. Don't kid yourself. I am shooting with my handheld lens backwards, pressed against the camera body. Again, I can't pick the subjects up. I can't put them under a microscope. So I made my own microscope by reversing my lens, and sometimes I reversed another lens, like a movie lens, on top of that, and I literally had to hold these lenses in my hand and just rock back and forth until it was in focus, because you can't turn anything to focus. I didn't have light, so you had to shoot it like 1 second exposures. Sometimes I had an off-camera light I could use a sync on and shoot from that, a slave light. But almost that whole book is natural. So I broke every photo rule that's out there. I didn't follow my rules of thirds. I shot life. I didn't worry about rules. I didn't worry about editing. All I wanted was that shot, and don't touch it. But the other thing I need to mention is in the book, you aren't going to find the exact family names or anything, because to properly identify each and every one of those species, I actually had gone to a university here in Minnesota and asked the Department of Entomology if they could help me, and they said not without collecting the insects. And because, there are certain insects that you have to count the hairs on the legs or the segments on the body, and you couldn't properly identify them without doing that, which meant killing the species. And I'm like, hey, this is a book about life. This isn't about killing things. So I tell people up front, there's no exact names. It's more of an art book and a learning.
Yeah, it is. It really is. It really is. I also want to mention that your first edition of Winter Bugs, the hardcover edition, has been sold out. So it's. I wish I would have purchased it before. I could have probably made a good profit by selling it out someday.
Well, and people that bought that first edition won't suffer, because this first edition of the full novel with my own publishing company, the White Wolf Creek is the other publishing company, and that's all my documentaries are under White Wolf Creek, because I don't know if people know that I'm a publisher also. So all my nonfiction is published under White Wolf Creek, which is my art gallery, which is my wildlife, everything. But that is the first edition. I will be doing a new hardcover edition, but it'll be the first time with the full exhibit in it. So in essence, that's still going to be very, very valuable to have that. When that hardcover's gone, that'll be it until, if I do a 20-year or 25-year maybe, but I can't, guarantee that I'll be around that long. I'm already in my 50s, so I don't know. But
you still have that energy as a 20-year-old, really, because
thank
you always have that discovery, and we can tell it when we look at your photo and when we watch your work. And I'm pretty sure sometimes, and I hope you won't think I'm crazy, and the auditors won't think that I'm crazy also, but sometimes I have the feeling that the insects, they are literally posing for you. You know what I mean? They are taking a pose, like showing the legs.
I actually had a lady in my Stockholm gallery, no kidding. She showed up in my gallery, and she said, I'm here for validation. I go, excuse me? And she said, I'm here because I was given the message that I'm supposed to come here. We drove all the way from Minneapolis, and I'm supposed to come here. I am looking, oh my gosh, it's right behind your head. And it was a picture of my wolf. And it was my dream walker, and she couldn't believe it. She goes, she walked around my gallery, and she started crying, and she came back. She goes, do you ever just come in here alone? And do you ever just sit and talk to your photos? I go, no, I don't. And she goes, you need to do that, because your animals, these animals have messages for the world. They are trying to tell you something.
I really agree with that lady. So what is next for you, Margarita? Because you have now this ebook edition, which we can purchase on Amazon. But I believe there is a hardcover version coming up, right?
That's right, in the spring. Okay, so the ebook, I purposely did this so people with Christmas budgets, I could have reversed it. Most publishers would. I said, no, for Christmas, I can get this into more hands. If I could afford to throw a Kindle in with it, I would, or a Nook, I would. But I can't afford it because that's money out of my documentary. But I wanted people to be able to put this in their kids' hands. The grandkids, you don't know how many people have come to me and said, my grandkid comes over and they make a beeline for that book. They love that book. So to me, it was, I thought it'd make a good Christmas gift. So I'm releasing the ebook version on Amazon. It's all set up for pre-order. If you just go in and search Winter Bugs Lisa, it'll pull it up. You don't even have to put my big long name in. Winter Bugs Lisa on Amazon. You pre-order it, and it'll just automatically go to your Kindles on the 21st of December, unless I decide to release it a couple of days early. But I don't think so, because it's very important to me that it starts at the same time that the Winter Bug documentary started, and then the hardcover and paperback editions will follow in the spring on the start of the spring equinox, because I shot this documentary from the very start of winter to the very second of spring. And no kidding, there's a picture in the book of a caterpillar or a grub, not a caterpillar, it's a grub, and right at the second of spring, that thing lifted its head. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, how did you know? I'm sitting there for a half an hour photographing this thing, and right at the very second, because I'm watching my time stamp on my camera, and at the very second of the start of spring, it lifted its head, and I'm like, and that was the very end of that project too, which is a very, very sad day for me, because now that project is done. That documentary is done. But you were asking about other work. I shoot many documentaries. Many of them are still in progress because I don't feel, you get a feeling inside when something's right or wrong. Well, you get the same feeling when a project is still too raw. It's not done. There's more to add. And for me, I've got many of those. But one of the documentaries that's ongoing, and this has been a very passionate piece. In fact, it's probably the piece that I think I'll be remembered for, believe it or not. It's not the Eagles that I've spent 12 years with. It's not all the other documentaries. It's actually a book called Struggling for Existence. And it's animals I have met through all these years, the insects that are struggling to survive. It's the opossum that was hit on the highway, and it's left dragging its eye behind it, and I can't do a thing to help it. It's the buck jumping out of the ditch that had just been hit by a semi, running on just its front, what's left of its legs. It's those kind of stories. It's animals that have survived. They've got one eye. It's animals that didn't make it. It's a. Some people say that's gross, or why would you shoot that stuff? Because it's life, and people. I shoot life as I find it. I don't want to rearrange life. I want to document. That's what I feel my calling is. It's to say, this is who I am. This is what I shoot. I'm sorry if it offends you. I don't mean to offend people. I'm just trying to show life as it is. And
and that's really what I think is your signature. Is really that you brought photography and also all this educative intelligence that you're bringing in it, and the frame around it is really art. I mean, if you don't care about the insects, you're going to see a great photo. And if you don't care about all of that, you're going to be aware about all the great life that is around you. So that we are very, very grateful to you, my dear Lisa, for your wonderful work. And trust me, I know already, I want to thank you because I know already what I'm going to offer for Christmas and New Year's Eve to my friends. So I know already. I didn't know what to offer them, but for sure they will be happy with that, and they will be very, very grateful because it's nature and we are all concerned as far as I'm concerned. Everybody is concerned about this because it's accessible to everyone. You don't have to be rich. You don't, whether or not you're Republican or Democrat, wherever you're from, you have nature around you, and nature is accessible to all of you. You just have to take the desire and have the time, and the best way to do it is to purchase the great book. I won't say it enough. The great book of Winter Bugs, this 10-year anniversary edition by the fantastic Loucks Christenson, who's the first-class author. I had the pleasure, my name is David SERERO, I had the pleasure to have today over the phone, as I just said, the Loucks Christenson author, first-class lady, and she's releasing in December the ebook version of the Winter Bugs, the 10th anniversary edition, and then somewhere in the spring will be the hardcover. So I'm sure you are like me, you will not wait for June to come. You're gonna purchase now the ebook, which you can do now on you can do from December. On Amazon. My dear Lisa, I thank you a million times for taking some time today out of your very, very busy schedule. I know you're working on many stuff now. So thank you so much for taking some time. And I want you to know that the doors of this show are yours 24/7.
Oh, thank you so very much. I would love to be back on another documentary, and maybe when the hardcover releases, we could come back on. And
oh, my pleasure. Anytime. But we're going to talk again in December. We're going to talk again about your great show. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, my name is David SERERO. I had the pleasure to have today the fantastic author Loucks Christenson, who is releasing Winter Bugs. You go on Amazon, you put Winter Bugs, Lisa, you can't miss it. And it is absolutely phenomenal. Thank you very much, Lisa, and talk to you very soon.